I'm 14. My body? Sitting in the pews of St. Rosa Lima Catholic Church for my confirmation ceremony. My mind is somewhere else. Father Stephen's booming voice can't compete with the screams in my head. I've recently converted to the religion of Slayer. And the prayer that keeps repeating in my head is the song Angel of Death. I imagine the band on the altar knocking Father Stevens aside as the congregation rises up into a chaotic slam pit. Father Stevens' voice breaks through my daydream. It's now up to you to decide if and when you step through those doors. It's up to me to decide. What do I have to say about that? Thank God. Images and threats of hell have been haunting me for years. I know what to do. I stopped going to church, locked myself in the room, and headbanged to Slayer at full blast. Angel of Death, march to the kingdom of the dead. I'm 19. Still in my room blasting Slayer. My mom looks devastated when she opens my door. My mom says, I have terrible news. Jennifer is dead. She was in an accident. I protest. No, she was just here last week. Jennifer is my first crush. Our moms are best friends. And I remember being too scared to kiss her at the middle school dance. And post-high school, I still have a crush on her. But I'm just a guy friend. I returned to church for her funeral. I'm numb, disconnected from my body. The words of the priest ring hollow. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Nothing makes sense. I haven't even cried yet. The slideshow starts. I see the picture of Jennifer at the middle school dance, and finally, the pain breaks through. I crumple. I'm all tears and sadness now. In my room after the funeral, I close my eyes and imagine in detail Jennifer losing control of the car, veering off the freeway, the car flipping over, and then the actual moment of her death. It actually happened to Jennifer. If it can happen to Jennifer, it can happen to me. I open my eyes, trying to escape somehow. My heart's racing, I'm shaking. I've got no faith to calm me or make sense of her death. Then, I remember the book Jennifer gave me the last time we hung out, Think on These Things, by Indian philosopher Krishnamurti. I find the book and desperately search for any sign of Jennifer in those pages or any answers for my confusion and fear. In the weeks that follow, Think on These Things rarely leaves my hands. It's my new Bible, soothing me, explaining the unexplainable. He says, this preoccupation with death is not about a fear of the unknown. It's because we're afraid to lose the known. A wife, a husband, a child, a friend. I add to the list, fear of losing myself. I know what to do. I search for everything there is to know about life and mortality, death and dying to self, truth. I'm 22. My college major is now Eastern philosophy. Yeah. As Krishnamurti describes, I'm preoccupied with death. With solving death. Well, solving my fear of death, actually. I have to make sure everyone is with me on this quest for ultimate truth. At work, at home, at backyard keg parties. I gain a reputation amongst my friends and family for being a sort of new age Bible thumper. And my thumping reaches a crescendo at my parents' holiday gathering. I should have stopped sooner. My drinking and my preaching. The rum and eggnog sneaks up on me. Next thing you know, I'm telling Peggy, one of my parents' closest friends, there's nothing to fear about Dad. I'm not yet self-aware enough to notice the look of worry and judgment on Peggy's face. I try to explain further how all of us are miniature versions of God. Peggy, I am God. You are God. She is God. He is God. We're all God together. The look on my dad's face as he emerges from the crowd of bad sweaters is mortification in its purest form. He interrupts me by addressing the whole party. Okay, everyone, it's time for the white elephant gift exchange. I stumble back to the eggnog. As I sober up, I realize I've really embarrassed my family, and I start muttering to myself, what is going on? What's going on, Chris? I lock myself in the bathroom to figure things out. So I stare in the mirror, and I move closer and closer until the mirror is touching the surface of my nose. Eyes wide open, studying my retinas. And face to face with myself, I ask out loud, like, just out of curiosity, who are you? And then there's silence. And I stare, and then I'm like losing track of which side of the mirror I'm on, and then I freak out, and I'm lunging back, and my face, it's like I'm going numb. The chest is tight. Fuck. I can't breathe, and I'm on the carpet, my back, and I'm folding my hands on my. Am I dying? No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to die. Then I breathe, and I slow down, and when my first panic attack is over, I know what to do. I need to get help. I'm 27. It's my first month as a hospice social work intern. I'm finally visiting patients on my own. My first patient is Mr. Z, a 76-year-old man with terminal lung cancer. I drive to his house and knock on his door. His daughter opens the door and tells me how depressed her dad's been since finding out he only has weeks to live. He really needs someone to talk to. He's just not himself. I think he's more likely to open up to another man. The daughter insists that I meet with her father alone so that, he can talk about his feelings about dying with a 27-year-old young man who's very afraid of dying himself. How could this not go well? So I start the interview. He shares his love of family, his pride in his tile business, and how much he misses his woodworking shop. And I decide it's time to go deeper, as his daughter asked, and help him with his feelings about dying. How are you feeling about what the doctor told you about your illness? Oh, do you mean the fact that I'm going to die? I don't know. How am I supposed to feel? His response freezes me. I'm searching my mind for something profound to say. Nothing's coming. We sit for 30 seconds of awkward silence. How's it supposed to go? I know my daughter's worried and wants me to talk to someone who can cheer me up. I'm doing my best active listening face. Gently nodding. I don't see how talking's gonna help. I mean, I'm dying. Cure my cancer, that will help. Get me back to my workshop, that'll help. Talking? A lot of people feel better when they talk about things. I guess I'm not a lot of people. In my life, never had time to talk. Had to put food on the table. Everything I've done for my family. And he pauses. They're my life. His face cracks, turns red as he fights back tears. I quickly grab the tissues and try to hand it to him, and suddenly the moment is gone. His John Wayne gaze is back. Thank you for coming. Can you get my daughter, please? I oblige and walk away, knowing I screwed up. As it turns out, Mr. Z and many other patients I meet along the way don't want to talk about death and dying. What they do want to talk about is life and living. I know what to do. I let the dying teach me how to live. I'm 34, still fear death. That hasn't changed. In spite of my fear, I've learned a thing or two about living and how to be a calming presence for those who are dying. Now, I'm doing everything I can to stay calm in the midst of an entirely different experience. Birth. My wife Tessa's in labor. We're practicing our crunchy granola birthing techniques. The intensity kicks in. We call the doula. Tessa starts puking. We rush to the hospital birth center. The midwife set the stage. The doula guides her through each contraction, and I feel it, like I do in the rooms of the dying. A force of nature far, far greater than myself, driving the whole process. And it's so comforting to not be in control. I know what to do. I shut up, stay out of the way, and let the women do their thing. Sage Maya is born, and 3 years later, Nicola Lyric is born. I'm 40. My commute home from the hospital is long. Patient and family conversations replaying in my mind. Most times the podcasts and music shift my focus from work to home. Not today. I keep seeing and hearing Joshua, the bright young man in the ICU, 22 years old, a pre-med student, riddled with cancer. Just last week, he was sharing his hope of finishing his bachelor's degree, and now he's connected to pumps, lines, machines, unable to speak because of the breathing tube down his throat. He's squeezing my hand with eyes wide open terror, and he writes to communicate. I'm not ready to die. Classes start next week. There is not much to say here. There are no thoughts and prayers to smooth the edges, avoid the tragedy of this moment. By now, I know better than to try to solve this type of suffering, this level of terror. As it turns out, after everything I've tried, the human condition can't be fixed. It can't be solved. And I'm humbled. I think I know what to do. I breathe, relax, make eye contact, hold his hand, hold the space, just be with him and tell him, I know, no one's ready for you to die. I wish there was more we could do. He closes his eyes. My commute is over. I'm in the driveway outside my house, and I can hear Sage and Nico yelling at each other. They're waiting for me. I have to remind myself, I'm not Joshua. I'm not that terrified 22-year-old hooked up to machines, afraid to die. That's not me. I'm a 40-year-old dad, getting home from work. I just want to enjoy playing with my kids. I don't know what to do. So I breathe. I do my best to set aside the suffering and open and step through the door that's in front of me. Let's pulse